My name is Kevin McCain, and I'm an artist here in Boise, Idaho, and I teach classical drawing and painting classes. And so what I'm going to share with you today is a drawing tip for dealing with symmetry. So I've done this drawing here, and it's not too bad. And I don't know how many of you have done something where you spend a lot of time drawing something only to realize that it's not the same one side to the other. So if I look at this curve and I look at this curve, they're not quite symmetrical, or in other words, they're not the same. If I mirrored it, if I put a mirror here, it would be symmetrical, but these are out of sync. They're not quite there. Now, there's sometimes where you don't even get this close, where, right side, left side, they might be way out. But there's some real simple, easy ways to bring this back into symmetry by using a technique that we call mirroring. And the first thing that we're going to use to try to mirror this is we're going to be using a center line, which means we're going to cut this thing in half vertically, and then we're going to use some vertical lines as well to help essentially take this side, fold it over, or take points on this side and transfer them onto this side to give us sort of a dot-to-dot roadmap of where, on a specific point, where we should be on the drawing on this right side. Now, I'm a left-handed artist, so I usually favor my left side drawing to mirror. Most right-handed folk, not surprisingly, are going to use their right side to then mirror this way. So I'm going to be showing you this like a lefty, so you're going to have to kind of, unfortunately, put up with that during this. Now, the other thing I want to call your attention to, it's going to be very easy on this video to see these are out of whack. The easel here is at a different angle because of the camera angle. Even when I straighten this up or when I put the dots, it's still probably not going to look like it's exactly symmetrical yet, because again, there's a little skewing with the camera that's going to distort this a little bit. But I understand that it would actually be truly symmetrical at that point. It's just the camera angle. So the first thing I'm going to do with this to mirror is I'm going to go ahead and put on here a center line. So I'm going to go ahead and got a shadow that's casting here, and I'm trying to like mad to find the center point, which I believe is probably right about there. Once I make a decision, though, it's really going to be no going back. This is now the center of that object, and once we put a center line, usually it's a lot easier to see that one side is different from the other. And if I took measurements using my thumb and the end of my pencil to measure from the outside to the center line, I would have to get in the way of the camera too much, but so if I took that and I come over here and take it in the same place, I'm going to find that I'm way off. I mean, I'm a quarter of an inch or more off. And so what we're going to do is, the first thing again that we need is a center line to help us with our symmetry. Now, I'm doing this very, very darkly. If I was actually using this in a drawing, obviously this is going to be very light, so I can erase it at some point, and that way no one would ever know that I used a center line. The other thing we're going to do is I'm going to pick some certain points, so maybe I could try to get out of the way of the camera. I could pick this point here. And again, I wouldn't make big black dots like this. This is just for clarification of what I'm doing here. And I'm going to pick at least 7 points along here. Now, if I was going to be doing ellipses, I'd actually throw some straight lines through the ellipses as well. I'm also using a T-square, and I want you to understand that if I do this by hand all the time, but the reason I'm using the T-square is to be very, very clear about what it is that I'm doing. I'm also going to, I just realized, I'm going to need some paper. This is a little spare piece of paper. I'll use that as well. And again, normally I would use my thumb and I would use a second pencil to mark this off with. But to try to make it a little bit more clear, I'm going to try to use a little piece of paper. Hopefully that works. The hardest thing to get with symmetry is curves. If this was straight, wouldn't be a big deal. I just have to make sure that the top and bottom and the middle were all equal distance off this center line. But since this is a curve, it becomes a little bit more complex. So I'm going to pick at least 4 places along this curve, and maybe more if I have to. But I think 4 will probably help me. Well, I guess I'm already at 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And maybe I'll do a 5th one. I think I'm going to need it. So again, I would normally put the points that big, but this is trying to be very, very clear about what I'm doing, is that I'm going to go ahead and mirror that point onto the other side using this center line. Now, the other thing that we're going to need, now that we have the center line, is we're going to need some, this is our vertical, we're going to need some horizontal lines. And I'm just going to use this T-square again to make it very quick, but understand that I do this in hand sketching all the time. You're, of course, doing this by hand, and you're going to be using your pencil, and you're not going to be near as accurate as the method I'm going to use, but we're usually way off. So even if we're in within a 16th or a 32nd of an inch, we're going to be good. And usually if you're doing it by hand, you're not going to be anywhere near that precise. So this is, for when it really counts. And I've been an illustrator for 20 years, and there's times where you need to nail it. You can't, even a 32nd might be too much variation. And so this is a method where we can use it roughly for hand sketching to get closer, but we could even then pull out, as I'm doing, the drafting tools in case it was if I was doing some sort of mechanical illustration by hand like we used to do back in the day before everything became computerized. This was the way it was done. And I can already see that, again, some of my ellipses are a little bit out because of my vertical lines. Right now we're going to do this just to mirror the silhouette. But yeah, at some point I would come across these ellipses to make sure that my ellipses were good and straight. And that's going to be important as well. This is a really good example of this. If I came across here, I'll do this a little lighter hopefully than this line, or maybe I'll make this line more distinct. So this is something that grew out of the classical tradition, going back to the Renaissance. Now it's not off by a bunch, but it's off by a little bit. And again, that can help me make sure that my ellipses are good and clear. Sometimes I've had people come into the class and we start doing stuff like this, and they're like, "Hey, this seems like drafting. I thought I was going to take a drawing class." And one of the aspects of drawing is called draftsmanship. The ability to make sure that the objects are symmetrical, to make sure they're not wonky. Now, if we're doing it for stylistic reasons, well, that's something else entirely. But most of your best people that stylize, whether it was Hieronymus Bosch or whether it was Redon or some of these other folks that would do stylizations, they actually knew how to do this correctly, and so it wasn't because they couldn't do this, it was because they knew how to do this, and then they were trying to do a variation for style. Some of your best animators today understand this, and yet they're stylizing a lot, whether they're a cartoonist, whether they're an animator, whether they're doing Japanese manga or comic book drawing. Times when you're really stylizing, they still understand these methods, because this is draftsmanship. This is the part of drawing that you're supposed to understand, as well as what is your line quality, what is your stylization, so forth and so on. This is key. And I've had friends that have worked at some pretty big places, Disney and DreamWorks and others, and again, they know this stuff, and they know it inside and out. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead, and I've got these dots, and again, we're going to measure the distance from the center line, and maybe I need to make this bigger, from the center line to our little mark, and then we're going to make sure that the distance from this side of the center line to the next mark is the same. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to use this piece of paper, And I'm just going to use this, I'm going to mark my mark here, and then I'm going to mark my center line, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to check it. And so I've got this on my center line, and now that's how far I'm supposed to be off. So I was off less than a 16th. That's not a bad tolerance. But we're going to find through here, there's going to be some that aren't anywhere near that close. To keep from getting, I'm going to go ahead and scratch these out so that I don't get too distracted by these little dots that are going to start to appear on this piece of paper. Now I'm going to measure from here to the center line, from the center line back over, and again this looks like, I'm off, I was of course off. Now this is not quite as close as this. This is off by a full 16th, almost 3/32. And again, this is going to continue to get wider, these disparities because of symmetry. Now there's a certain something I can also do to help me with my symmetry is if I ever want to see if something is way out of whack, I can take my drawing and I can turn it upside down. And when you turn it upside down, all of a sudden you're taking it out of context, and your eyes can see very clearly. This one again. Now we're almost at 3/30 or 3/16. That disparity is huge. I'm going to check up here too because I want to make sure that my starting points are pretty close. Yeah, wow, this is way out of whack. Okay, so again, and now again, you didn't see the drawing. Again, you're looking at it through the camera, and again, there's some distortion because of the camera. I'm going to just check to make sure this is the same place too, because that was so weirdly out of whack. Now again, if I've got this little ellipse here, so I'm using that to check this, where I'm at, where I'm supposed to be, and so forth and so on. And these little dots are where I'm supposed to be. These are equidistant off the center line. So that's these marks being thrown over and cast onto here. Now this I actually missed my line, so I need to bring that down onto the line. And if I'd been smart, I'd actually put straight lines out to here. But I've got a couple of ellipses that I was using to measure from, so that I could kind of wing those. But the idea is you can start to see how far the disparity is going. And the funny thing is this is a drawing that I had people have looked at from a class just the other day, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that looks about right." And the funny thing is, it's not right. We're way out. Again, we're going to see at least 3/16 of an inch off. And there's parts down here where we're going to be 1/4 of an inch off. Now, sometimes when I'm doing this, I'm running out of space. I already had marks on this thing to begin with, and I just grabbed it so I wasn't leaving you folks. So we're going to go ahead, and again, now we're getting, that's a strong 1/4 of an inch right there, how far we're off. Now, sometimes when we make it symmetrical out here, it might seem that it's gotten a little beefy, like it's now a quarterback, and we need it to be more like a running back, or it just looks like it's too thick. That we've lost sort of the height to width. Well, that's not a big deal. I'm going to put a little triangle here so I don't get lost. If that was the 2 marks I just made, because now I've got so many marks and my eyes are starting to go, which one was that again? And so I can just put a little triangle under there going, hey, use this one. Again, now we're getting closer to 5/16 off. So we can start to see how crazy off this was, how far we were from being symmetrical. And again, I'm going to use this mark. I have a mark that I used previously, and I'm going to put that there. And then to make sure that I distinguish it, I'm going to put 2 little triangles under it. This had 1 triangle, these 2, and now this has 2. So this can help me so, again, I don't get too cluttered. This one's crazy out. I mean, this isn't even funny. We're getting close to, that's about a good 1/2 inch in terms of where I should be this side to this side. So sometimes I'll get and redraw this and I'll go, man, this guy looks like, this bottle looks like, it's just way, way too thick. And the idea is that we can go ahead and thin it up, but you can thin it up if you need to, but since once we've redrawn it, we already have this will be truly symmetrical, well, then it would be easy to kind of skim off a 16th or an eighth of an inch on this side and an eighth of an inch on that side, and still pretty much keep it symmetrical. So this really does help us. Now, again, I've got so many dots here I can't see, so I'm going to go ahead and pick this one, and I'm going to go ahead and put, now this is the other side, but I'll just put 3 triangles to make sure I don't get lost. And then I'm going to mark the center line, and then I'm going to put 3 triangles under that, again, just to tell me, hey, this is will stand out because it's got those 3 triangles under there, and it's not the other measurement that was 2 triangles or the other measurement that was 1 triangle. So we have to find ways to try to figure out what we're doing. Now I'm also want to make sure that my foot is where this thing finally lands is also in the same place. So I'm going to put that over there. Look how far out that is. We're away. This was basically doing this at an angle. And once we do this, well, then it tells us. I'm also going to take this little point right here, and I'm going to cast it over there because that tells me where the bottle is turning under. All right, so I'm going to take this, and again, I'm going to go ahead and come through there. And again, I'll take this little measurement right here, right there. And again, I can go ahead and, so I've got maybe, so I'll do another one, but because this is going to be another measurement, I'm going to add a little triangle. And that'll be my measurement, and we'll have 4 little triangles under there. Like that. So again, so I can hopefully, whoops. Wait, did I have it in the right place? Yeah, good, okay. So we'll come over here, and again, look, just not even close. In fact, I'm going to have to extend my line out just so it hits my mark. And so if these points aren't touching on the line, I need to bring them down onto that line, because those are the points. And again, we'll check this one, and we'll do one more time. Maybe I'll use one of my ones I've already used. So we've got the little. This will now be 5 triangles for that one, and this is just a little bit different. So I'm going to come over here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know which one, because those so again, I don't get lost. But these ones are right next to one another, so I have to be really careful that I don't screw it up. And again, this line is all the way out here. I mean, look how far that is. Now again, sometimes, for whatever reason, our eye accepts all kinds of, it can be way off, and our eye goes, okay, I can accept that kind of. When we don't want it, when it's not even close. And so that's what this mirroring is for. And now by doing this, we could come in here and I could go ahead and draw this so that whoops. I'm drawing way past my left side, so this is getting, I might have to come on in here because I'm so far to the right. I can't hardly, or to the left, that I can't see this line that I'm drawing on the right. Now, many times when I'm drawing this, because I can't see over here, and I need to see this side to draw this side. So what I'll do is when I come here and I need to redraw this thing, this would be the time where I can actually flip this over, because I don't want to be drawing blind, meaning I don't want it to be covering the area I'm drawing. So I'll go ahead and put this on here like this, and now I can see very clearly the points, and I can compare this side as I'm drawing this side, because I don't want to get lost in between these points. Okay, that looks like that's a lot more symmetrical. As far as that goes. So this is, I can go ahead and darken this. I'm not going to bring this, I guess I can bring this around if I wanted to. but I'm not gonna worry a lot about that. And I usually don't, you know, when this thing is at a true vertical, I usually don't draw this controlled. Usually I'll put it on the drafting table so it's at a better angle to do a little more of a controlled line. Whoops. So now I've got an object that's truly going to be symmetrical. And what's amazing is how far off we really were. Now, this is what I mean about it getting beefier. By the time I do this, it's really kind of gotten a whole lot bigger. But this is how much, again, I was off that first time. I mean, just way out there. So this thing wasn't even symmetrical at all. It was out by, again, well over. I could even, this has a, you know, has a little ruler on it, and we go, wow, that's like a full ½ inch and then some. We were so far off. But again, if I get it to this point where it's good and symmetrical and I need to slim it, well, I could slim it on this side a little bit, come in just a little bit, slim it on this side a little bit, come in a little bit, and then retrace this arc here, retrace this arc here by just, you know, just taking off, putting this bottle in a slim fast diet, if you will. But since we're starting with, if you start with it being symmetrical, we can always bring it in much more symmetrically, much more easily, because we have these points to respond to. Now, like I said, this is normally done very, very lightly, so that I can then do my drawing. My drawing is usually not darker than this. So you can understand this is going to be sketchy. You know, very, very light, very sketchy. And especially if I'm hand drawing, it's going to be really sketchy. If I was going to be doing an illustration, I could then retrace this and transfer it and all that other stuff. So go ahead and give this a try, this mirroring at home. You can hear someone's here at the door trying to get a hold of me, I guess. But we always need a center line. We need verticals that are truly perpendicular, 90 degrees. And then we measure from the point to the center line. And then to transfer it, we go from the center line to the next point. Or for you right-handed people, it would be the reverse. If I was going this side, going there, well, then, you know, from this point to here, and then transfer it to there. And that is what mirroring is. A really great technique, really great tip. Give it a shot. This has been Kevin McCain with Idaho Art Classes. You can go to my website, idahoartclasses.com, and check out, you know, things about classes and workshops and stuff like that. And I'm wishing you a great day, and we'll see you again. Bye-bye now.